All right. Good evening. Welcome in. It is SEC After Dark, a rather new look SEC After Dark. We're a two-man weave here. We're the dynamic duo, I guess. I guess if you want to say. Uh, Jake Thomas, what's up, man?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm glad that we was able to fill in the slack this week and keep the show rolling while Steven and Jeb are out on their vacation riding Space Mountain with Goofy, as you said earlier today. So, you know,
Yes.
and I'm sure they're having a great time. So
Yeah.
enjoy it, fellas, and I'm sure y'all will probably catch the wrap up after we finish. He might be live with us. Who knows? But
Yeah,
uh,
he might be standing in Epcot Center with Pluto, showing him our show. So obviously, this is a slightly different look than what you're used to.
mhm.
This is the more simplified look. I'm actually doing restream straight from the browser. So
Hmm.
this is a good, fast, convenient way to drop a live show really quickly. As you can see, it is dark or it is blank right now, but the chat will hopefully get fired up. Lots of stuff to talk about this evening with on SEC After Dark. Like I said, it's just myself, Corey Burton, and Jake Thomas. Jake Thomas, you can find him on the Tide Talk podcast,
Hmm.
and you can find him right here on the Y'all's Conference Network. Uh, Cody, what's up, man? He's in there. Roll Tide, Jake is what he said. Great job, curb stomping the dogs last weekend. You misspelled dogs, Cody.
Yeah, DAWG is what how
The
they spell the dogs.
dogs, man, dogs.
Dogs.
They didn't play Mississippi State last week, Cody. It's all good. Um,
Yeah.
so again, action packed show. Let's jump right into the game, man. We've got this game. We've got a few coaching changes, some superlatives, some little Heisman controversy. The
Mhm.
Heisman controversy is stung us right here on this network. So
Yeah.
um, we'll get into that as well. We'll get into our thoughts there. Corey Raymond just went to Florida.
Wow.
That's insane. That's a huge hire for Billy Napier. Great,
Absolutely.
bravo on that. Good job.
Yeah.
Um, Frank Wilson going to LSU. I think that's a big hire for Brian Kelly. He comes over from McNeese State. So
Hmm.
I do declare that was such a great hire. Um,
Family.
family. So speaking of family, Jake, what did you? So Vinny and I talked on Monday about this game, the SEC championship, and there was a lot of things that was rolling through my head. I made on my fancy note card here. I made a good and bad and ugly list, and I needed a legal pad for the ugly. I think in the second half, but um, first quarter was outstanding. Got off to a 10-0 lead. Used that 13 personnel package with the three tight ends just to perfection. Was able to do whatever we wanted to, moving the ball in the first quarter. Got off to a 10-0 lead, and then the slant happened, which we talked about on Believe in
Hmm.
Georgia Dogs. Stacy was in the chat, so we were having a conversation with him. But um, we talked about Georgia can't let up these big plays like that, these big long explosive touchdowns, and they let up quite a few. I think every single one of them were over 20 yards,
Hmm.
except for the Bryce Young scramble, which was close to 20 yards. So I'll count that one too. But um, the 65-yard slant to the house to get Bama scoring, honestly, I think that was the point where Georgia was like, oh boy, our secondary was like, we can't contain this guy.
Yeah. Jameson is one man wrecking crew. But yeah, you talking about the good. I will have to say first off, the good for Alabama side was that offensive line. I mean, they're coming into the game giving up 7 sacks against an Auburn front seven. I mean, Auburn does have talent, but I mean, they was in the backfield pressuring Bryce all night long. Now, in the second half of the Iron Bowl, they did tend to get a little bit better. Seth McLaughlin stepped in at center
Mm-hmm.
in that game. He played center Saturday, and he held his own. But that offensive line really impressed me because I did not expect that offensive line to give up 0 sacks in that game. I thought they would have got at least 3 or 4.
Right.
And another thing is, we talked about it Wednesday night, and we may have talked about it Thursday on your show, Corey. But we said if either team gets up 10-0, it might be too far out of reach. But I mean, Bama never gave up, and they just kept pounding, and the rest is history. It was I'm actually in shock that the final score was that bad. In
Yeah, I
all
mean,
honesty,
Georgia goes 22 minutes on a dry spell offensively. After after that touchdown, they couldn't get open. Stetson was taking coverage sacks. They stopped being able to run the ball. They couldn't produce much offensively outside of Brock Bowers,
hmm
and that's a big problem. And that I think when you look at what Stetson's able to do, I don't know why, and I question the game plan because I think they had like a game plan that is like a one size fits all, and the way they were executing it probably fit JT more.
right.
Um, but when you have a guy that can, with the running ability that Stetson has, with the escapability, just the kind of able to move around and climb in the pocket, get second chance throws and things like that. Like I felt like you should have moved the receivers a little bit more, did some more motions, featured some more passing game out of the 13 personnel bunch package, get Stetson more involved in the run game. I mean, I think there's some things you could have done with Stetson that could have given you a better chance to eclipse that 24-point mark, because it was obvious Bama did not believe, and they were 100% correct. They did not believe that Stetson was going to push the ball vertically, and he didn't, and he couldn't. The only thing we were able to get when we pushed the ball vertically was a pass interference call because he underthrew it,
Right.
or George Pickens going up and making a wonderful catch.
That was a great catch.
It was, and
hmm
I wish we'd involved him more. But
hmm
I don't blame Stetson because Stetson played about as good as he can play. Like that's his ceiling. The way he
hmm
played, I thought he played really well for the most part. The interceptions were horrible, but he's a one read guy. I mean, he's a limited quarterback. There's a reason he was a walk on coming out of high school. There's a reason why he had to leave Georgia and come back to get a scholarship offer. There was a reason why he was third string coming into the season. Like there's reasons for all this stuff.
Right.
And it was obvious that he was propped up by the defense, propped up by the running game, and being able to just just mow people down. And it didn't work against Bama.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to make a change. And moving forward against Michigan, I don't know what they're going to do with that. But, I thought that was something glaringly. And then defense, right? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Georgia's vaunted defense. 0 pass rush. They went into a conservative hole. There was no edge pressure. They kept trying to ram everything up the middle. Safety play was absolutely god-awful, atrocious. Lewis Cine probably had one of the worst games I've ever seen him have. This is the worst game he had since Florida last year, where they completely torched him and baited him. Coverages were busted all over the place. A lot of it was due to safety play. You had Chris Smith who wasn't quite healthy, and you had Lewis Cine he's a box player. He's not a guy that's going to play well in space.
Yeah, one thing that we also mentioned was we need to run a little bit up tempo to keep you guys on the field and breathing heavy. And Jordan Davis was on the sideline a couple of times on big drives because he was just winded and could be out there. So that kind of disrupted some of y'all's plans y'all had on defense as well.
Mm-hmm.
And but with it, I mean, like you said, the first quarter, I mean, we couldn't move the ball real good. I mean, we had a couple of drives, but it stalled out. We had a punt, and I mean, all the momentum that first quarter was on Georgia's side, and it almost felt like if Georgia got a touchdown or and made it 17-0, it would make it really really tough. But I mean, that defense, I don't know, it just collapsed in that second half. I don't know what
Second
happened.
quarter. I mean,
Well, the second quarter, yeah. But
after that Jameson touchdown right after halftime, I think Georgia's defense finally said, screw it, we're going man, we're coming after Bryce, and they had a little bit more success. So I think moving forward against Michigan, like you can't play passive anymore. You just got to come after people. So, but we're going to put this game to bed. Frank, the chat is blazing right now. Frank,
Sure
the Tide made changes we begged for. I begged for last week. They must like Bill O'Brien. I texted Israel this. Bill O'Brien must have listened to the show.
He had to,
because he did everything we said that they have to do to win, and they did. They did exactly that. And hats off to Bama. I mean, Bama's Bama, right? They're Bama for a reason. They keep rolling for a reason. Jamison Williams is a difference maker, and anytime you have Nick Saban, it doesn't matter how bad you are, you're never down and out. So,
right. Yummy rat poison, he's called it.
Yes, he shoved some rat poison down Kirby's throat. So,
if I was Kirby next year, if these boys play again for the national championship, I better, if I'm Kirby, I'm telling the media to just shut up and not say a word about the game. Do not give Alabama and Nick Saban any kind of fuel to the fire, because that's what
this is great for Kirby, because now he can go and for a month now, like he can just drill his team. But
right.
For Kirby, just I would have rather seen them be super hyper aggressive and go to, like, if the score was the same and we were hyper aggressive the whole game coming after Bryce, and just I would have felt much better about it. If we'd have made a change at quarterback and it didn't work, I would have felt much better about it, because at least we're going down swinging. At least we pushed Bama to their limits, and that's the only way. Like, that's the only way you can beat a team like Bama, because Bama has players that overwhelm you. Jamison Williams overwhelms you because he can hit. He's a home run hitter.
Yeah,
and that's the only way you can do it. That's the only way you can get to Bryce Young, is collapse everything in front of him and don't give him any daylight to squeeze through.
right.
And if you do that, he starts looking down at the rush, just like Auburn did. Auburn just basically just made a conglomerated mass in front of him, and where he couldn't. I mean, it just overwhelmed him, and that's why they only scored 3 points for 59 minutes. So,
sure.
But this game's behind us. On to Cincinnati, on to Michigan for me. Hopefully we'll meet up in the national championship for an all SEC natty. And hopefully Georgia will be more aggressive, win, lose, or draw. I just want to see us come out swinging. I just want to see us punching. And I want to see JT Daniels do so. Coaching hires, man. Let's get into that. Since we last left you, we had Mario Cristobal, Corey Raymond, so a few assistant hires. Brenton Venables going to Oklahoma. Oregon is still looking. I'm going to pull up Football Scoop while I get your thoughts on the two newest hires that we've talked about. Mario Cristobal and Brent Venables going to Oklahoma and Miami, respectively. So what do you think of those two hires? To me, it seemed I like the hire, but I don't like the hire at Miami. I thought it was quick. I thought it was kind of lazy, but I think ultimately he'll do well there. And Brenton Venables, I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm just not sure. But I don't know. What do you think?
I know, it all depends on who's leaving. I mean, they've got a lot of people in the transfer portal. So,
and Marcus Freeman too.
Marcus Freeman, yeah. Brent Venables, if he's able to convince some of these guys to stay, he's going to have a pretty good foundation, especially offensively. He's a defensive guy, so that might be a big key coming into the SEC in a few years if he's still there, because SEC's got some stout defenses, and he's a defensive guy, so that might be one of the reasons why they hired him, to shore up that defense a little bit, because once they get in the SEC, you're going to have a stout defense. You're going to get beat 50-10 every game,
Yep.
On the Mario Cristobal, I really felt bad for Manny Diaz, because he's out recruiting guys.
Have they fired him yet?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. He was out recruiting guys to Miami, and they was running behind his back trying to hire Cristobal, and they hired him and fired Manny. It was a weird situation how Miami went about doing that. But I think Cristobal, he might, I don't know. he is from Miami, but it just don't seem like a good fit to me. He just seems like a West Coast guy, and he was thriving out there at Oregon. I know he got whipped by Utah twice.
Twice.
Yeah,
Made no adjustments. So
no,
I don't know, man. Like
no,
he's Cuban born. He is born and raised in Miami, so he's got that going for him. And
yep,
he's a good coach. I don't know. Like I don't know about him because like when things are stacked in his favor, he's a great coach. But I think he's one of those roller coaster type guys,
hmm
and I think he's going to be somebody that's dependent on who he surrounds himself with
yeah,
because if you noticed with these Utah games, injuries, no injuries, doesn't matter. He didn't make any adjustments. And they just whipped him both times the same way, just punched him in the mouth and Cristobal had no answers. Oregon had no answers. And they had no answers the first time. They had no answers the second time at a neutral site. So
hmm
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that Miami did their due diligence. Now, if they did their due diligence and they still came around to Cristobal, fine.
yeah,
Whatever. But I felt like they were. I felt like the way they did this is they were trying to hurry up and like he wasn't going
yeah,
anywhere.
hmm
Like they weren't gonna lose him to anybody
no,
significant. Like he wasn't going to like Virginia,
no,
so, like a conference rival. Like he wasn't going anywhere. So like why rush it? And the way they treated Manny Diaz is just absurdly embarrassing.
it is. It's crazy. And what was Oregon's what's their quarterback? Anthony Brown.
Yeah,
I
he had a
mean,
brutal game.
yeah. At least man. Cristobal won't have to deal with him down in Miami. Probably. I don't think he's going to come
Now,
because he's
now, yeah, no, he's not.
yeah,
Van Dyke he's not beating out
yeah.
Van Dyke. Van
No,
Dyke is I like Van Dyke.
yeah.
Um,
There was
last they
something
had him
funny.
rolling.
Yeah, funny thing I saw scrolling through Twitter during that game, the Oregon Utah game, was that Anthony Brown wouldn't even win the Dr Pepper challenge as bad as he was throwing that night. I was like, man,
Oh boy,
but that was
yeah,
that was tough to watch, offensively for Oregon.
yeah, but again, if this is the right hire, then if this is the right move and Cristobal does succeed, that'll be good for college football because when Miami's good, college football is better for that. And the state of Florida has got a little bit more. I don't want to say parity, but it's got a little more competition for Napier. So
Oh
for
yeah,
Napier and the Gators, but time will tell. I don't give it an F because he's not terrible and it's good for recruiting, but I give it a C. I give it a solid C because I'm just not a big believer in Cristobal. Maybe
yeah,
I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. If Lane told Miami no, Joe said if Lane told Miami no, then what? I've been right about Lane all along. He wants to win a Natty and beat Saban in the same year. I think Lane is really happy at Ole Miss.
I think he is too.
I think he likes it there. I don't know that he's going to be in a rush to move, and I don't know that Alabama's really going to like. Do you think Alabama would pursue Lane if Saban were to retire?
I don't
Like,
know. There's a lot of
is he posturing for that? You think?
I don't know. That remains to be seen. I do feel like Saban is going to get to handpick his next guy, and a lot of Alabama fans, including myself, do not want
Justin,
Dabo Swinney.
yes.
So, but
No, I
yeah,
don't think I don't. Dabo would be crazy to leave Clemson at this point.
yeah, I
Of
agree.
course,
Even
he's
though,
going to be looking for some new coordinators because Tony Elliott's emerged at Virginia.
yeah. So we'll see what Dabo does up there. Surrounding himself with great coordinators. But talking about Cristobal being in Miami, that's going to make, like you brought up, recruiting that much tougher for the Georgias and the Alabamas of the world to pick all them guys out of Florida who we have on our teams and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
and Billy Napier, it looks like he's surrounding himself with some good recruiters as well. So it's going to be a challenge to pull some talent out of Florida. It seems like.
Yes, absolutely, and it's going to be an old school battle with Florida State, Florida, and Miami. Florida State's improving under Mike Norvell. They're starting to. They
Yeah.
might be able to sign the Max 32. So
Mhm.
they're going to finally start getting some Norvell guys in there. So that's going to be awesome for them. They're getting a new AD at Florida State, so that'll be good. Obviously the Gators, I think, made a plus hire and Billy
Yeah.
Napier, and then even more A plus hire with Corey Raymond as their assistant. I know that probably stings LSU a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
um, I think as much fun as we poke at Brian Kelly, I think he's going to ultimately be pretty good at LSU. He's a talented coach. I think I'm hoping he's not as phony as he's coming off, but um, uh,
Yeah.
you know, and then I don't know if Jake, you and I got a chance to talk about Marcus Freeman. I think we talked about him as a possibility, but I think he finally formally accepted the job
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend and was officially named. And I think that is an A plus hire too for Notre Dame. I think they've got a gem in Marcus Freeman, and it's pretty telling that none of the assistants left.
Yeah.
They all wanted to stay, and they all stayed.
Yeah.
Uh, I think the player's reaction will tell you everything you need to know about Marcus Freeman. Watch his press conference; absolutely nails it. He's 35. Sounds like he's 53 and been a head coach for 20 years.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like listening to him talk, watching how his teams perform. I think Notre Dame has got a gem with that one. I hope I'm not wrong, but I think they do
Yeah.
with Marcus Freeman.
That was a great hire in my mind for sure, like you said.
Yes, no
Mm-hmm.
doubt. So, um, but yeah, I think when you look at the coaching hires, I struggle to find I haven't given any A pluses and I haven't given any Fs either. I think there's been a lot of good hires. When you look at, we haven't really talked about Venables, but they have, according to Football Scoop, they have finalized a deal with Ole Miss offensive coordinator Jeff Lebby,
Yep.
worth $2 million annually. So Venables understands that he's got to hire some good people around him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he understands he's going to surround himself. He's got a great offensive mind. I mean, look at what Lebby, along with Lane Kiffin, has done for Ole Miss. I think that this is going to be Jeff Lebby's going to be at Oklahoma for 2 years. Let's just get that out there. He's going to be there for 2 years, and he's going to be a head coach.
Yep.
I think he's really, really talented. I think ultimately he probably wanted to get out from under Lane Kiffin, just to prove that he probably had more influence on the offense than people are giving him credit for. You could see the Baylor influence in there. You could see the his in the offense. It had a little bit of Lane twist to it, but I think Lane gave him more pull than people realize. So you'll kind of see that in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, I like the hire because it's going to give them toughness. I think recruiting is going to be, obviously recruiting at Oklahoma is not overly difficult to begin with, but
Right.
I do think Venables does have some star power there with his name. I worry about everything outside of coaching swallowing up Brent Venables because I
Mm-hmm.
just don't think he's that type of person. I worried about that with Aranda, but he seemed to handle it.
He has done well.
Won the Big 12 in his second year
Yeah.
at Baylor.
Absolutely.
So, he's doing something right. I worry about that with Brent Venables. I worry about like these defensive coordinators that seem like they're going to be career coordinators getting swallowed up by all the things you have to do as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be the biggest factor for Venables to overcome because everything else he's great.
Absolutely. And here he's going to be another guy we're going to talk about in a few years, whether he's going to be kind of like a Steve Sarkisian, or Will Muschamp type, where he's a great coordinator, but just falls flat on his face as a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, it remains to be seen. But him hiring Jeff Levy was a great move on his part. So, like you said, I believe Jeff Levy may be there, like you said, 2 years, and he'll be a head coach somewhere because he's a brilliant offensive mind.
Yes, exactly. And so I like that a lot. And I think it's going to be ultimately good for that. You know who I heard was a candidate at Duke. You're going to get a good laugh at this.
Who's that?
Jason Garrett.
Really?
Jason Garrett.
Oh my goodness! There was a lot of
boy.
It wasn't nothing major, but a lot of people had him coined as a potential offensive coordinator for Alabama if we were to get rid of Bill O'Brien.
Oh
So
God, that would be
yeah,
worse than Bill O'Brien.
I know. I did not like that move, so I hope that does not happen.
Yeah, I see. I thought, and I've been hammering. I've been hammering Bill O'Brien.
Hmm.
He had a tremendous game Saturday.
He
He really
did.
did. He really. I can't. I can't. I got to give him credit. I hammer him. Then I got to give him credit too. He had a great game. But I'm looking at Scoop now. That's all like the notable stuff, really. Uh, Fresno State, Jeff Tedford. I thought that was extremely lazy hire.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Brent Pry, I thought was a pretty good hire. Jay Norvell going to Colorado State. Mark Whipple created a Heisman Trophy finalist at Pitt, resigned and went to Nebraska.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like he's going from a very stable situation to he could be out of a job in a year because
Yeah.
because Scott Frost is on thin ice.
Yeah. He's been on
Like
thin
what
ice for a couple of years.
the hell?
Yeah.
Um, so unfortunately for you, former Brevard College defensive coordinator Luke Jacks accepted the defensive coordinator job at Missouri Valley
Huh.
University. So
Oh.
yeah, sorry about that. Sorry to burst your bubble there.
Yeah.
Um, one of my kids is in JUCO in California. Avery Bass got an offer from Concord University, D2 school in West Virginia.
Nice.
They are looking for a defensive assistant, so probably defensive line. I wonder what he would do if I took that job and showed up and he took the offer and he showed up and saw me on campus. He'd probably lose his mind.
He would. There you go,
So
coach. Go after coach.
let's do it.
Yeah.
Hey, tell the wife, hey, want to move to West Virginia? Okay, all right. So
But you just got to tell that coach that you got to have Wednesday nights open for SEC at the dark.
yeah,
So
it's a must. Like eight
that's
eight
right.
thirty.
Yeah.
I got to excuse myself from the staff meeting.
Yeah. So
Come chop it up with you guys. So,
that's right.
but that is the coaching carousel. It looks like it's slowing way down. So we're just waiting on Oregon to make a hire. We're just waiting on Oregon to hire somebody, and maybe it's Chip Kelly. I don't know. Maybe it's I've heard Justin Wilcox as well, which would be interesting because he didn't do much at Cal, but then again, it's Cal. So
Yeah, Cal's been down since Aaron Rodgers left, I think.
Cal's just never really good,
Right.
So, well, let's get to another controversial topic. If Bill O'Brien leaves, you think Brady would be a consideration? I don't know
Tom
about Joe
Brady?
Brady.
No, I'm
Yeah,
just
Tom
kidding.
Brady. Yes.
Yeah.
LSU is apparently going after Pete Golding as DC.
We'll let him have him. Here you go. Take him, LSU.
I was ready to donate money to O'Brien's contract extension until after the SEC championship game. Yeah.
He may got himself an extension after that game, probably.
Which is actually maybe false hope because
Right.
Saban was all up in his grill after that
yeah.
Auburn game.
Yeah,
He was
sure.
like, yeah. Joe Brady would be in consideration. I don't know. You probably think so. He'll probably get a phone call, maybe.
I mean, you probably call him, but didn't he say he left LSU to go back to the NFL because he didn't really like recruiting? Or is that I'm just making that up? I don't.
No,
I thought that was
you're not.
right.
I mean, obviously his options are going to be his options, but I think
Right.
he'd prefer the NFL. So he's a lazy recruiter. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah. That's right.
He didn't like it. I think Oregon should go after Lanning. I don't see Lanning going west of the Mississippi though. I don't know. I think if Oregon offered Lanning, he'd be gone in a heartbeat.
I did too.
I wouldn't blame him one bit. Would not blame. I hate to lose him, but I wouldn't blame him one bit. LSU let LSU have Golding. We hire Bo Davis. Yes. Yeah, Justin Riley.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So, anyway,
especially when you still got Jimmy Lake out there. What's is he going to take a head coaching job again? Is he just going to go back
oh no,
to being a defense coordinator?
I don't know that anybody is going to touch that with a 10-foot pole
Yeah,
after what
that's another
happened with
thing.
him.
Yeah, that's another thing.
I think his name is. I don't think his name carries the same weight now. It,
Blackballed from college
yeah,
football.
it's not good. He might get an analyst role somewhere.
Right.
Nick Saban might be on line one actually. So the coaching rehab center. So
Yeah,
University of Alabama coaching rehab department.
that's right.
But who's going to replace Levy? Probably, honestly, Cody, probably an up and comer.
Hmm.
That's just gonna learn. I think Lane will take it over, and then he'll have somebody an up and comer, kind of groom, and then let him take over when he's ready. You know, there's some analysts, there's some position coaches around the SEC that I think
Yeah.
could step into that role
Did you see what Steven put on Twitter today? Talking
today.
about that? Yeah, talking about Levy. Um, he don't think he said something about Lane always hires like a Baylor guy, and then when they leave, he goes away from the Baylor coaching tree. So it probably won't be somebody from Baylor that's been in that coaching tree before. So
Yeah,
I thought that was
I mean,
interesting.
he might go after Kendall
He
Briles.
could,
At
yeah,
I don't know.
that'd
That'd be interesting.
be.
If he wants to, he can have Todd Monken.
Mm,
I mean, I think Todd Monken's good, but he's an NFL guy.
yeah, he
Like
is.
he like the NFL scheme wise, it's like your system is your system, and whoever your quarterback is has to play within that system.
Right.
It's not. I don't know that he's really cut out for like designing it for his quarterback. You know what I mean? That's my one knock on Monken. I thought he's done a tremendous job. Outside of that, though, but okay, so Heisman talk, right? A
Hmm.
lot of controversy there. I think Cody alerted me to this on Monday. I think Steven kicked the hornet's nest with this, like unintentionally, really, with a comment that he made. I think I don't know if it got taken the wrong way. I don't know. I don't know, but talking about Matt Corral and talking about Bryce Young, and Bryce Young is more important to his team than Matt Corral is to his. Um, I didn't take that as a slight to Matt Corral.
I
I
didn't either.
think I think the way I took it, not to blindly come to Steve's defense here, but if he said something stupid, I'd call a spade a spade. But I think Matt Corral obviously should be in New York. I think
Yeah.
the fact that he's not let's just go ahead and put this out there. The fact that Matt Corral is not in New York and Kenny Pickett is asinine. I think the fact that Will Anderson is not in New York and Aiden Hutchinson is also asinine.
Hmm.
Um, Kenneth Walker, should be there too. Um, so, I think when you look at Matt Corral, you got to understand that, like, they won 10 games and he was hobbled all year long, right?
Pretty
Ole
much,
Miss,
yeah.
like that's to me that's like a compliment of Ole Miss's roster. To me,
Hmm.
like you have a lot of weapons that can help you through that. Yes, he gutted out a lot of stuff, but they can bear that a little bit better, uh, ironically than Alabama.
Hmm.
Like Alabama has, I don't really know this for a fact, but the fact that we've never seen their backup quarterback, I think there's a significant drop off after
Oh yeah,
Bryce Young, right?
yeah,
And I think if Ole Miss brings in their backup, I don't know who Ole Miss's backup is either. So, uh, but I think there's enough around him that, and they do some things differently than Alabama, they can make it work. Like Corral was very hobbled in that Tennessee game, and they still won,
hmm,
right? They made it work somehow. It was weird, but they made it work.
hmm.
And a lot of it was scheme, a lot of it was opportunistic defense. They just made it work. And that's not saying Corral is not valuable. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But when you look at what Bryce Young does for this Alabama team, you look at it and say, okay, if they're neck and neck, you look at the impact these quarterbacks have on their teams. And Bryce Young was able to obviously do what he did against Georgia, to kind of solidify that. And he did, I don't know, like when you're looking at these neck and neck races, you've got to there's things there's razor's edge things that you have to look at and break down. And unfortunately for Ole Miss fans, Bryce Young wins a lot of those battles, those small battles. Kenny Pickett, don't know why the hell he's there.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's no. I think they use his pro projection to do that, and I think he's gonna be a good pro, but he's
not better than Matt Corral at all.
He's not more impactful than Matt Corral.
No.
But I think I think Matt Corral has had a tremendous career at Ole Miss. I think he's meant a lot to that program. But
not really, Cody.
No.
I mean, you saw how bad our offensive line had been up until the Georgia game. Any average quarterback would have been killed if it wasn't for Bryce Young's ability to get out of the pocket and make plays himself. And he had to do that a lot this season. And I mean, I have been on record. I don't think I've said it on this show here, but I've said it to some of my coworkers. But Alabama, Bryce Young gets hurt at any point this season and is out in an extended period of time, we probably have 4 losses. Matt Corral, was injured, like you said, Corey, most of the year, and they still won 10 games and only lost, 2? So, I mean, and like I said, there's no slot to Matt Corral, but if Alabama lost Bryce Young, the step off between him and Paul Tyson is huge. And when we have a dynamic guy like Jameson Williams that can open the top up over a wide receiver, you got to have a quarterback to throw it to him. And I don't think Paul Tyson is accurate enough. I don't think he can throw a deep ball, with any kind of accuracy.
If Georgia had a person that could throw a deep ball, we might, Jake and I might have had a very different conversation at the top of the show.
Right.
I mean, it makes a difference.
It does.
It makes a difference. I think, honestly, I think Lane has recruited a better backup situation to Matt Corral than Alabama has at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to Ole Miss's roster. I think that says that Ole Miss's second and third teamers are pretty damn good.
They are.
Snoop Connor's technically the second string running back. He'd be first string on most ball clubs in the conference outside of Georgia, really.
Yeah.
In the conference. I mean, I can't think of another. I think he'd start at Bama. I think I don't think he starts over Zamir, but I think I'm trying to think of another program where he wouldn't start. Definitely would start at Florida.
He definitely would start at Vandy.
I don't think he starts over Tank, but at Auburn. But I don't think Auburn figured out how to use a running back consistently, so
no,
he would have hit the portal anyway. So, but yeah, I mean, I just think it. Look at it like this: Matt Corral wins the trophy. Had Ole Miss beat Bama, and they were still 10-2.
I mean,
maybe depends. Like if they get in the SEC championship and they win at 10-2, probably. Snoop is a beast. Yes. I don't know. Like because there was no front runner for a long time. Matt Corral never fully seized that opportunity. Bryce Young finally on the last week of the season seized it. I mean, that's what it came down to, honestly.
A 97-yard drive to win or to tie the game against Auburn. And then that he had to run out of the pocket last week and he had a guy coming after him. He just shuffled it to the right, and Brian Robinson was there. That's another Heisman moment he had.
And the one where he points Mechie to the corner
and
and drops a dime on him. That was, it's stuff like that. I mean, and then it's all, and then it comes down to the political side of it where you have voters and, you campaign and all that stuff. So, I mean, that's part of it, unfortunately. And, the year that Peyton Manning lost to Charles Woodson had a better campaign, had a better marketing team. And that's what it also comes down to. Bryce Young had better marketing.
Yeah. And honestly, you can almost make the case where all the 4 invitees could be all SEC top players. Bryce Young, Matt Corral, Will Anderson, and Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, Matt Corral not being there is a travesty. Will Anderson not being there is a travesty.
Yeah. So. I think it, I don't think it should have been a runaway with Bryce either, to be honest with you. But, yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, don't remind me, Justin. Yeah, I know. This is all PTSD. Young credit for a game-tying drive against Auburn because, John, yes, in most cases in the Iron Bowl, there is probably, and Jake, you can back this up, there's probably, out of how many times they met? 115 times?
Yeah, a bunch.
So you take probably half of those, and one team probably should have blown the doors off the other team, and they didn't. Because
it's a rivalry game.
It's a rivalry game. It's a road game. Yeah. Auburn is a really tough place to play. I mean, you look at just about anywhere in the SEC, and it's tough. Like Mississippi State, now they closed their stadium in with all the cowbells. That's a tough place. Kyle Field is tough. Death Valley, Sanford, Bryant Denny, the Swamp, even the Grocery Bag at Kentucky. They're right on top of you, man.
Yeah.
And they come out now. Since Stoops got there, they fill that place up, man.
Yeah.
Every game's tough for Vandy at home because they have a road crowd every week.
Yeah.
And that's a high school field, so they're right on top of you too.
Yeah.
So everywhere's tough to play. So any conference win is respected.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what makes it tough, Justin. It's they're right on top of you.
Yeah.
And the stadium goes straight up in the air. So
yeah.
It makes it even louder.
So. And that Auburn voodoo. I mean, every team that goes down Jordan Hare experiences it at least one time a game.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Bryce only threw 43 touchdowns and 4,300 yards and
4 picks.
4 picks. I mean, terrible season, really.
Yeah.
So, considering it's a rivalry game, Bama was 20-point favorites. That's how crazy this rivalry is. Those numbers get thrown out all the time. Like you throw those numbers out, it doesn't matter in the Iron Bowl. It really doesn't. And I'm not even involved in the rivalry. You just know. You never know. You want like the year, I think it was 2009, and Bama was in the same situation. Jordan-Hare, they got to win the Iron Bowl. Auburn is huge underdogs. They're in a rebuilding year, and here comes the Tide. The Tide had to have a late drive for McElroy to win it.
Yeah,
like the same exact scenario. Then they go on and win a national championship. I hope that didn't happen this year. I hope you guys hit a road bump from the Dogs, but I think who knows. So you look at environments. That's that's what that is.
Right.
So I mean, I have immense respect for that.
And if Matt Corral would have come in like Cody has said into Bryant Denny and had a late game drive where they won the game, then you might be talking about him being up there for Heisman. But he finally got going, I think, in the second half. But I mean, he struggled that game. So he just
like I said, in a tight race, those things matter.
Exactly.
Those things matter in a tight race. Small things matter in a tight race. there was no clear-cut favorite, so it's not like Corral could have afforded to have those struggles. Bryce Young, fortunately, Matt Corral was still in the race for and was fortunate for a while, and still should be.
Absolutely,
still should be. But how big do you think the rivalry would be when Bama and Auburn moved to the East? I mean, our rivalry with Auburn's already intense. It's the Deep South oldest rivalry, but I think we're starting to get a nice little rivalry with Bama.
Oh yeah,
it's like the rivalry or respect. We hate each other on game day, but you look at each other and go, man, that was intense. That was a good game. That's how I look at Bama. Like, if you look at Nick Saban and you can't respect Nick Saban, I know it drives you crazy that he just keeps kicking everybody's ass. But man,
not me.
I know you guys need to enjoy this, man. You Bama fans get spoiled, man.
Yes, we are big time.
I think that's where all the hate comes is from the spoiled Bama fans. But for anybody that looks at Saban and is like, Bama's just fun to watch, man. I hate I never thought I'd admit that. I'm like, it's like rooting for the Yankees, but I don't really root for Bama, but I just enjoy watching them play. It's just like they're good. They're just dominant, and Saban just different problems figures it out.
It's crazy.
They just win, man. They just figure it out. Like, you lose coaches like that. Like Saban should have been 9-3 this year.
Yeah.
With all the changes, they should have been 9-3 this year.
Absolutely.
But they figured it out. They figured it out. So who knows? But all knows Bama's in the playoff, playing Cincinnati, which poor Cincinnati, they're just gonna run into a buzzsaw. Michigan's playing Georgia. Hopefully they're running into a buzzsaw. I think what Michigan does really well with Blake Corum and Haskins, they run the ball really well. That's Georgia's strength defensively. So, they're gonna have to run the game through Cade McNamara.
Yeah.
Can they win with Cade McNamara? I don't know. It remains to be seen. He makes some nice plays, but he's not Bryce Young.
Yep.
John, the guy that replaces Nick Saban is going to get fired in year 2 regardless, because he's not going. Like, they might as well hire me for 2 years just to bridge the gap.
Yes.
Hire me. Fire me after 1 year. Give me that $700,000 $1 million buyout. I'll take the job and get fired after year 1.
Well, the thing about it is, Stephen has said it time and time again on this show, and I agree with him. It's not about the next hire; it's the hire after the next guy that's going to be key for Alabama. I do believe.
Yeah, and that's where Florida State struggled, because the hire after the next hire after Jimbo was a disaster.
That was a disaster.
I think having Jimbo under Bobby Bowden for 5 years before he took over, I thought that's what made that work. But then the hire after Jimbo, which I kind of treated like the hire after Bobby, because I thought Jimbo was just kind of Bobby extended. They just totally whiffed. And they got Norvell, who's been struggling, but I don't think a lot of that's on him right now.
I mean, you can see they're, besides the Florida game, they absolutely laid an egg against Florida. But you can see
they've been playing hard, man.
They have, but they're right there. Florida State is. So who knows? That ACC might be fun in a couple of years.
Yep. So, Yep. And I'm hoping, John. I'm hoping we get all the Yankees and the West Coasters and the Midwesterners all riled up at an all SEC natty again.
Yeah.
I hope so.
That would be great. That would be awesome. Yeah.
I would love that. Sign me up, man.
Yeah. And Cody, Saban is under contract till 2028, and that's when he said he was going to retire. So
I believe him, yo. He'll be 78.
Yeah. And February of 2029, Alabama probably have a new coach, if not before. So we'll see.
The new coach will probably be on staff at that point.
Probably so.
They'll probably be on staff at that point. So just bear that in mind. Might be Bill O'Brien. Who knows? It's going to be Bill O'Brien.
Oh. Well, if he gets fired in 2 years, that's fine.
No, so here's what's going to happen. Urban's going to get fired from the Jaguars this year, and he's going to come be an analyst, and then Urban's going to be the new head coach at Bama.
But if he don't win, he's going to fake a heart attack. So, I mean, how long is he going to be there?
Well, you just need somebody for 2 years.
Well, that's true.
You just need a bridge guy. So
Yeah,
he's perfect.
that's true.
There's plenty of co-eds for him to grind on, so that'd be good.
God, Corey.
It's enticing for him, man. That's something apparently he probably looks at.
Oh my gosh, that video of him. Oh, that was awful.
That was terrible.
That was terrible.
I can't imagine what his wife would say.
I can't believe he's still married after that.
Yeah, I know, right?
But,
whew, yeah, brutal. So, so that there's your Heisman talk. Superlatives. Coach of the year, SEC. I think there's about 6 guys we can make a case for.
Oh yeah.
Obviously Kirby going 8-0 conference play, just running roughshod, having the best defense ever in Georgia. For that to all get kind of derailed in the SEC championship, tainted a little bit, but doesn't take away what he did throughout the course of the season. You can only play who you play.
Yeah.
You play in the SEC East, you just dismantle everybody in the East.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Down, not down, but they didn't win. They beat the hell out of people. So
yeah, and that's not his fault. That's not his fault.
No. And Justin, yes, you can make a case for Sam Pittman being coach of the year. I mean, he won all that hardware, got dug Arkansas from the depths of Brett Bielema's gut, and got them 8-4, just with a depleted roster still. Yes, you can make that case. Lane Kiffin winning 10 games at Ole Miss, getting them into New Year's Six Bowl, turning that program huge. Around. That's huge. Mike Leach getting Mississippi State into a bowl. They were pitiful last year. They were pitiful under Joe Moorhead.
Josh
Heupel. Like, they lose an All-American team to the transfer portal.
Yeah.
They had nothing.
And they won 7 games.
And they won 7 games.
Yeah.
And they're going to beat the hell. They're going to win 8 because they're going to beat the hell out of Purdue.
Absolutely.
Mark Stoops, another 9-win season at Kentucky. Like, he's Mr. Consistent. Like, somehow he managed to take a minus 15 turnover ratio and turn that into 9 wins. Just imagine if they had a better turnover ratio, that might be 11 games. Then you got Shane Beamer, who took an absolute dumpster fire at South Carolina. Like, South Carolina might have been the worst team in the country last year. Took them to 6 wins. Right?
Yep.
That's your 6.
Nick Saban. I mean, I guess Saban.
I mean, obviously Saban. Just continues to churn out SEC championships with new coordinators.
Yeah.
So that's 7. That's half the conference.
Yeah.
That you could legitimately make a case for. I mean, they had to give it to somebody, right? So, they picked Kirby, I guess, this year. So, but they had to give it to somebody. But any one of those 7 would have gotten it. I would have been cool with it.
Yep. And I'm fine with Kirby getting it. I was kind of shocked that he actually did, but what he did in the East was incredible.
Just the dominance.
Yeah.
Just the overall dominance.
Yeah.
Take away that ugly loss there to Bama, which it turned from a war to just momentum overwhelming you. That's just all that was. So yeah, Brock Bowers, freshman of the year.
That was great. He is a stud.
I mean, that's pretty obvious, right?
Alabama didn't have any answers for him Saturday, and I don't know if we play again if we will then, because we don't have anybody that can guard him.
No, you don't.
He's a great.
But unfortunately, you do, because we don't have anybody else. But George Pickens will be more healthy. But Bryce Young was first team All SEC. Tyler Batty was first team All SEC. I thought Zamir should have been in their first team at running back. Jameson Williams, obviously. Traylon Burks, Brock Bowers. The blocker of the year, I think they had an award for top offensive lineman. That's Darian Kennard from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Pretty obvious there. Velus Jones from Tennessee was your first team all-purpose guy offensively. Evan Neal on the offensive line from Alabama. Georgia had Jordan Davis on the defensive line.
Yep.
Ole Miss had Sam Williams, and Texas A&M had DeMarvin Leal, and Georgia had Devontae Wyatt. Those were your four first-team all-conference. Will Anderson, Nakobe Dean, and Damone Clark from LSU were first-team all-conference linebackers. Then you had Roger McCreary, Jordan Battle, Jalen Foster, Monteric Brown as your all-conference first-team defensive backs. And then Harrison Mevis and Jake Kamard as the first-team punter, and return specialist is Velus Jones, which is pretty unanimous selection there. So I honestly, my only deal was the running back situation. Like I thought there was running backs better than Brian Robinson in there that could have been in that first team spot with Batty, like Spiller, Rodriguez, Zamir, James Cook. You know, those guys I thought should have got consideration there. But if that's my only gripe, then I think the SEC nailed it, man, with the first team selection.
Yeah.
Noticeable second team guys: Matt Corral was second team quarterback. John Mechie made second team with Wandale Robinson. I mean, you look at these receivers. There was a lot of production at the receiver spot, the wide receiver spot. I thought they should pick more than two wide receivers I thought they should have picked three. I think Wandale probably would have made first team if there were three. Jalen Wiedemeyer, your front runner for the Mackey Award, was the second team all conference tight end. Tell me how that makes sense. Jamari Sawyer, notably on the offensive line. Cade Mays, Justin Schaefer, second team guys. Jerry and Ely was second team all purpose. Phildarian Mathis was second team defensive line. Jalen Carter was he's a backup. He's not even a starter, and he made second team all conference on the defensive line. That's pretty crazy. Henry Toto, Bumper Pool, and Zacoby McClain were second team all linebackers there. Georgia finally got themselves a DB. How was Lewis Seen? Oh, okay. Yeah. Lewis Seen is not an all conference DB. He's just not, man. He's just not. I appreciate it, but he's just not. Jameson Williams was second team all conference as the return specialist. So let's see. All Americans. Let's see. SEC had 13 total selections, 9 on the first team in the All American list.
Nice.
So let's see. From the SEC on first team All Americans, Bryce Young, Jameson Williams, Brock Bowers, first team All American, but he's not going to win the Mackey Award. Really?
That's wild.
Evan Neal. Those are your first team offensive guys. First team defensive guys: Jordan Davis, DeMarvin Leal, Will Anderson, Nakobe Dean. Those are all. Let's see. Yeah, those are all the first team guys. Second team All Americans from the SEC: Tyler Batty from Missouri, second team All American. Kenyon Green on the offensive line from A&M. Then you had defensively, Josh Paschal, second team All American from Kentucky. Then Jordan Battle, second team All American at safety. Who do you think is better, Helms or Battle overall? I thought Helms had a really nice game.
Yeah, he had a nice game, but Jordan Battle has come on the last couple of games and really the last month. Helms has been fighting an injury all year, so his production early on wasn't there, but he's healthy now, and you saw it in that game. He's like a missile out there. He's a ball hawk.
Yeah,
He knows the ball's that.
I think y'all safeties are outstanding, both of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were both outstanding. But I mean, it helps when the quarterback you play against in the SEC championship can't push the ball vertically. They can just sit there at 10 yards and drive on everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, so that's your All-American team. So I mean, obviously people worry about the SEC bias. Well, I mean, proof's in the pudding, guys.
That's right.
We produce.
Yeah.
The first team All-American running backs were Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall, which I think were two good selections there.
Mm-hmm. I'm fine with that.
Sincere McCormick was also the other second team All-American running back from the Roadrunners.
Huh.
Colorado State got a tight end in there, Trey McBride. He's on the Mackey Award list.
Wow.
Boston College got themselves 2 offensive linemen on the second team. And I think they got 1 on the first team, too. Maybe not.
Wait, a Colorado State tight end got, but Brock Bowers is not up for that award. What the?
And Brock Bowers made first team All-American.
Like, I know.
I don't understand. I don't get it.
I don't either. That's wild.
Who's national coach of the year, you think?
There's gonna be a lot of good guys up for it.
It's not Sarkisian, I can tell you that.
No, not Sarkisian. Not Dan Mullen.
Not Clark Lee.
Not Clark Lee.
I mean, it's got to be Luke Fickell, right?
And, I mean, taking a G5 conference, getting him in the playoffs, he's up there for sure. So
I think USA Today did Kirby, but I think that was kind of a lazy move, to be honest with you.
I mean,
the media's gonna. I mean, Luke Fickell is.
Yeah,
that's a tough one to beat, man.
It is.
It's a tough one to beat.
It is.
He's good.
He is.
He's really good.
He's gonna have to prepare for Bama though. I mean,
well, Bama's gonna whip his ass, but that doesn't mean he's not a good coach.
No, he's a great coach.
It's just upper echelon, most elite SEC ball club in the history of the conference versus the American Conference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on now. I mean, it doesn't mean he's a bad coach. I mean, there's a lot of great coaches got their ass handed to him by Saban.
Oh yeah, and it's kind of surprising nobody has gone after Fickell for one of these big time jobs, but I think he's holding out.
They have. They have.
Yeah,
he's been getting phone calls.
Right.
Notre Dame was all over him.
Yeah. I think he's holding out for Ohio State job if it ever comes open.
Here's some things I've heard that obviously Matt Nagy's on shaky ground with the Bears.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Would not shock me if Ryan Day went over to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
To reunite with Justin Fields. Would not surprise me. I think Ohio State is the only job Luke Fickell would leave for.
That's what I think too. Yep.
Because since he's going to the Big 12,
mm-hmm.
so he's going to be in a Power 5 job.
But, I mean,
thanks, John.
Yeah.
Thanks for typing out what I just said. I love it. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
John said, "Beat me to it, Corey. Damn it."
Yep.
Yeah.
All good. It's all good.
But, yeah,
thanks
I agree.
For being my scribe. So
yeah.
I think that's where Luke Fickell stands. Matt Campbell. I don't know what he's waiting on. I think he's just happy at Iowa State. He's turned down a bunch of stuff too.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to be, I think Cincinnati's going to do really well. I think that Baylor and Iowa State are going to do really well in that conference. Moving forward, I think TCU had their chance. I think they made a really lazy hire too with Sonny Dykes. He's good, but not great.
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech potentially made a really good hire. I don't know anything about this guy, Joey McGuire. So Big 12 might actually turn into a fairly decent conference.
It could do. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see in a couple of years.
Yeah, it would be. I can't wait. Mm-hmm. Especially when I can't wait to see what the SEC is going to do with their grouping when Texas and Oklahoma come over. So that'll be interesting as well. But
That's
Jake, we've been going an hour and 5.
wow. Time flies when you're having fun, brother.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Who needs you, Steve? No,
Yeah.
just kidding.
No. We need you back.
Yeah. We need the 4-man weave. We need the
right.
fancy graphics. Although the squares in the background, those are pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. I like that.
The Bears are about awful.
Yeah.
The Bears are unwatchable. So but that's going to do it for us here on SEC After Dark, man. So we're able to keep it. We're able to keep it rolling. I think we're going to go on a Christmas break after this week. We're going to take a brief hiatus, and we're going to come back at you with some playoff previews, even if it just has to be Jake and I for an episode before the new year. We're going to do it one way or the other, either here or in the normal setup. But the chat was blazing as always.
Thank you, guys.
We thank you, because without you, maybe it's just Jake and I here rambling about stuff for an hour and a half. So
that's right.
You guys keep us fueled with stuff, with new ideas, new things, new questions to answer. My ADD gets blazing sometimes, and that makes for a really good show. So we thank you guys for watching us and finding us. I'm going to get into the habit. I haven't been, but I'm going to get into the habit of posting the show to my Beast of the East podcast channel on Apple and Spotify. So this will be, there'll be kind of this will be kind of an offshoot of that as far as that's concerned. And always you can find us on replay anywhere. We're echoing all about the network, so you can find us just about anywhere. We need to get tapped into a network of former players. I'm working on that with my Georgia show. I've had some former players on before on my Georgia show with Israel. Israel's a former player as my co-host. So,
by the way, I forgot to tell y'all the other night when we was on there. I love being an Alabama guy. I love that clip of Israel having that touchdown against Auburn. I love that.
I was putting together an intro and I saw that clip and I was like, "Oh, this is perfect. Got to put this in here."
Yeah.
That was great. That was Joe Cox. That was the year Auburn was like favored over. That was 2009 actually.
Yeah.
They were actually favored because Georgia was having a tough year that year. Georgia was like 8-4 that year, I think. It was a bad year. So, but anyway, that's going to do it for us. If you guys know of any sponsors, any small businesses, any internet businesses that want to advertise, please reach out and tell them to reach out to us if they want to be a part of the show, partnership wise. If you guys know anybody, let's get into that too as well. So if you know somebody, or if you yourself, if you're watching us, want to get involved, want us to do a read, or want a graphic, obviously on our normal setup, which is not now, by all means, check us out, and we'll get you taken care of. We are 100% customizable on deals, so we can do what works for you. So the main thing is to get your name out there and to help us out a little bit. DM us if you feel like you want to donate to the cause. Feel free to reach out to us. I'll gladly take a little bit of that too as well. Just donate to the cause a little bit. That'd be much appreciated. It is not mandatory. It'd just be out of the kindness of your heart and the Christmas spirit. So DM me on, find me on social media, at Coach Burton36 on Twitter, at Burton.Corey on Instagram, at Believe in Dogs on all social platforms. So find me and reach out if you want to do that as well. That's ways you can get involved and have an impact. So, but you guys in the chat, man, you guys are awesome.
Yep.
However you found us, we thank you. And we hope to keep doing a good job for you. We hope to provide some fun, good insight, and some banter, and get back to drinking our cocktails. I didn't have one tonight. It's probably why my hot takes weren't so hot. So they weren't piping hot today because I didn't have my friend Jim Beam. So anyway, I want to thank you guys again. We are SEC After Dark. We are on the Y'all's Conference Network. You can also find this show on podcast form on Beast of the East podcast channel. So it'll say SEC After Dark, so you'll know that it's us, and you can listen to it that way if you're in the car and you can't watch. but you still want to listen and listen back. If you missed part of the show, please catch up on that. But actually, I was going to say until next week, but I think we're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we'll come back, preview the playoffs, and then once conference basketball gets going, we'll start diving into that a little bit, and we'll get this thing rolling, man. This thing it's only the beginning, so
That's right.
but we're going to catch you guys after Christmas. We hope you have a Merry Christmas. We'll wish you a Happy New Year when we see you again, but we hope you have a Merry Christmas. We'll see you when we see you. For Jake Thomas, I'm Corey Burton. We are SEC After Dark. So long. Merry Christmas. Have a great night. Have an even better weekend. Thank you. Goodbye.